Well, Eileen, I'm super excited to get to chat with you today and to welcome you. So I want to go ahead and have you start with just sharing a little bit about you. I know you have like an incredible story, which is really what drove you to do the work that you do today.
Yeah, well, I've been sick my whole life. Started when I was born, grabbing my head with the forceps and then always walking with twisted hips, running my knees together, wearing special shoes. I grew 9 inches in 3 months. That was like incredibly painful. Then I happened to be walking in a parking lot and got ran over by a car. So I have had
Oh my.
structural problems, which led me to the spinal fitness solutions. But then I think when I was about 20 years old, that's the last filling I ever got, but it was a silver amalgam filling. I had immune problems, high blood cell count. Then I became allergic to everything. I worked in the nuclear power plant construction industry, so I'm around welding fumes and all these things. And so it was a journey after being on medications that weren't working to having that underlying, belief that if my body just had what it needed, it could heal itself. So I was my own guinea pig. I just tried everything, diet, detox. I was eating paleo in the 80s before it was a thing, to control symptoms, and then the candida. I had a real change when it was just one more thing I was going to do, using hair analysis to guide what supplements and what I was eating. And that really transformed my body, enabled me to detoxify, because versus chelation that might rip, these junkyard parts out of our body, your body will freely give them up. So then, if anybody's done any detox, it's like, man, it's hard to live through a detox because you Hexheimer reactions and all this kind of stuff. And so I started, of course, doing saunas and all these gizmos and gadgets and drinking ozonated water to help my body. And then I started creating better widgets, so to speak, to make it easier to use in my life, to be more effective. And it's just like I transformed myself from, at one point, being allergic to everything that I ate. Anybody had colognes or any cleaning chemicals or formaldehydes or mold, people couldn't even smell the mold, and I'd be like a mold detector, and so I just went from not even being able to think and remember anything to having to write everything down to feeling better. Now I'm going to be 60 years old. I feel better than I did when I was in my 20s. And it's just amazing. There is no silver bullet. And there's just certain things that we can do nowadays. They actually sell non-toxic cleaning chemicals. Back when I was sick, they didn't have them. You had to get creative and make your own. And now they've got organic foods, and they have so many solutions out there that there's an awareness coming where people are realizing that in order to have health, you need to stop the toxic burden. I was reading one study where just the chemicals in women's body care and cosmetic products, there's over 500 of them that we're exposed to. So I'm just big into everything. Clean up what you're breathing in. That's number one exposure. Start drinking the right, liquids, and adding oxygen to your body and detoxifying your body with ozonated water, putting better skincare on, and then even if we lived in a bubble, we're never going to avoid everything. So detoxification really has to be a daily thing. So, I got an invention that, helps you sweat twice as much in half the time with no preheat. So it's easy to take a sauna with the phototherapy, with the near, mid, far, red light, therapy. So you feel good while you're detoxifying. So yeah, it's just an incredible journey.
I know, right? We have things that personally happen to us. And I feel like I resonate with you so much when you're like, oh, so many allergies, reacted to everything, right? Oh my gosh. Yes. Been there, done that. And it is amazing. And I know so many people, that they might get in those situations and they think that they just don't even know what to do, or they go to their doctors and their doctor's like, well, we don't really know what's wrong, or your labs come back normal, right? Because we're not doing the right
Yeah, yeah.
testing. I love you said like the hair mineral analysis, and that's really, really interesting to learn more about that and your body. It can tell so much about your body. So I wanted to ask you to explain a little bit more for our listeners about what chelation is, because I know you had mentioned that versus like, because it is a form of detoxification and it's really hard on the body, and how that can cause Herxheimer's and what that is and like what we should be doing instead.
Okay, so there are natural chelators like chlorella, cilantro. I mean, there's pectin, there's charcoal, there's all these natural chelators. Then there are synthetic drug chelators. So the one thing that you have to realize is that chelators are non-discriminatory, meaning they actually pull the bad out with the good. All right. And when these poisons that are in our body are in tissues and organs, we may have reduced function. But when these chelators come along and your body spits them out of the organ and they get in the bloodstream, that's where every imaginable symptom can crop up. And they call it Herxheimer reactions because, it's like they tell you got to feel worse to get better. So it's just the rate at which it's pouring into the bloodstream and how it's not getting out of your body fast enough. Like, I'm a proponent of coffee enemas, dry skin brushing, near infrared saunas, so you can get it out quick. And so one of the reasons, besides taking the good minerals with the bad with chelation, of why I'm not a proponent of that, is because there's a little known adaptation in the body, and people don't realize that your body will use lead for calcium. It's like they're really close together on the table of elements chart. So it's like a junkyard part. It's like if your car muffler's falling off, you might go take some baling wire and, wrap that up. It'll hold the muffler there, but it's going to rattle and, not do so well. But your body does that. So it can actually use lead in place of calcium and get some cellular function, because every cell in our body has an enzyme binding site and it needs a mineral. But by design, just like a car has OEM car parts, is that, your bones, teeth, and nerve fibers are supposed to have 99% of the calcium in our body. And so if it can't use calcium, because a lot of us either have hormone issues or we have exhausted adrenal glands, because when you move a nerve fiber, your body releases elements of calcium. But there's this awesome piece of equipment that's created in us that works, and it's called the sodium calcium exchanger. It takes 3 elements of sodium to 1 element of calcium, but 80% of the population have either adrenal gland insufficiency or adrenal gland burnout. So their adrenal glands don't make adequate amounts of aldosterone, which is a hormone that really controls electrolyte levels of sodium, not so much the salt we put in our food. So then the body can't put calcium where it needs to go, because there's way too much calcium, not enough sodium, so it doesn't go back there. So the body grabs onto the lead and puts it there. And if we have too many junkyard toxic minerals, where the one that we need, the preferred mineral, then we have dysfunction, then we have disease. And so chelation doesn't fix the reason why your body had to grab the toxic junkyard part. So besides taking the good with the bad, you're not fixing the imbalance. So actually you'll weaken your body to where you'll actually collect more than you had before. That's why a lot of people that have done a lot of chelation end up being really weak. They'll feel initially better, but then they get worse. And so I work with a lot of people who've kind of been down that road. I've been down that road, and it's just better to mineralize the body, kind of like a farmer. Okay, a farmer does a soil test. Right now we're hearing that zinc and vitamin C and this and that are all good for us. But what they don't look at is the law that governs all of planet Earth for animals, humans, and plants. See, a farmer does the soil test to figure out how much nitrogen to put on the soil, But putting nitrogen on the soil does not raise nitrogen in the plants. Nitrogen releases calcium. So likewise, taking zinc lowers sodium and raises potassium. What if that person already had too low of sodium, which a lot of people are in that boat? Then it will slow down the rate at which your cells open up to let metabolic waste out and to take nutrients in. So then it becomes more like a petri dish. You're more prone for infections. So if you have that, what we call an inversion on that ratio, then you can, first things are first. And so, being trained in that really changed my life, because I was just chasing my symptoms with natural stuff. I had cupboards of things, and I kept on taking more calcium and magnesium to sleep. And then I developed really bad joint pain because my body couldn't put my calcium where it needed to go. So it went in the joint. So now I not only have a cell that should have calcium now is lead, but then I forced calcium into my joints and caused another problem. And then the mineral that was supposed to go there gets displaced somewhere else. And pretty soon we're just a jalopy. We're like somebody refusing to replace their alternator. So they're jumping their battery all the time, driving their car without the headlights. And so we're just looking for things, but our body just needs, high density nutrition, and our food is so depleted of it now because of the soils. Even the USDA analyzed food from the 40s compared to now, and you wonder why people have cravings. It's like the vitamin content in like an ear of corn, you almost have to eat a bushel to get the same nutrients. We're just starved of nutrients.
So it really comes down, what I hear you saying in all of this, it comes down to our cellular function.
Yes.
Right? We don't talk enough, and I'm so glad you're bringing this up. I'm starting to learn so much more about hair mineral analysis, which has really opened my eyes, because I've listened to and learned a lot about cellular function, but the understanding hair mineral analysis and how if your sodium and potassium is too low and your magnesium and calcium is too high, or like vice versa, which we don't see as much, right? Because everyone's tired. So if you're tired, you're actually holding on to too much calcium, magnesium, not enough sodium, potassium. And, I talk a lot about electrolytes. And so it's really interesting when we start to recognize, and I always talk about how everything in the body is connected. We got to get down to the root. And ultimately, if the cellular function, the transfer of nutrients in and out of cells isn't doing what it's supposed to do, we're going to have dysfunction in the body.
Right. Absolutely.
So I want to ask you, Eileen, about ozone. And you mentioned it a little bit. I'm intrigued by it. I've done a little bit of ozone therapy, especially when I went through mold. And I know you talk about it from a healing perspective, drinking ozonated water. And I'm really interested because I've never heard anyone talk about using it for your plants. And I was like, ooh, that's exciting to me that we could use it for plants and not have to worry about, even when you're trying to do everything natural, right?
Right.
Still, then if you don't have to put anything on your plants but ozonated water, right? Like that's really cool to me. So anyway, I want to just, let's talk to us about ozone. And I guess the first thing we should probably do is can you talk about what ozone is for those listening? Because I bet very few probably don't know what ozone is.
Well, oxygen is 2 siglets of O1. And so ozone is 3 siglets of O1. And in nature, you've got positive and negative, and you've got balanced charges. So when you have an O3, that means it's very unstable, so that one singlet is going to break off, and it's called an oxidizer. And so when it's in the gas form, it's very, very reactive because we have solid matter, we have liquid, and we have gas. Okay, so breathing ozone gas will damage lung tissue. That's why we're not supposed to breathe more than 0.02 part per million. They've done studies that's for like compromised people with maybe COPD or asthma, but like a healthy person, 0.1 part per million is the threshold of where it begins to damage, because it does 2 things. When you're breathing, your body is grabbing oxygen to put in receptor sites in the lungs to get it to your blood. And when you have ozone gas in the air, it competes with where the oxygen should be in the receptor. So a lot of people, there used to be years ago, these alpine air purifiers, and a lot of people were like, using these ozone generators and smelling ozone in their house. And they're going, oh, I love it. I'm breathing deep. Well, I'm telling people you're breathing deep because your body's in starvation mode for oxygen because O3 is filling those receptor sites. So it's not a good thing. It's your body's survival to breathe deeper. And also people that breathe ozone in the air, they'll notice they'll have digestive upset, gut things. That's one of the things that happens when you have inhaled ozone gas, is you will have intestinal upset and, digestion issues and all that. So they don't really put 2 and 2 together for that. But besides competing with that, because our lung tissue has a lot of lipids in them, so it oxidizes the lipids and it actually causes our lung tissue to burn like a sunburn, and it damages our lung tissue. There's ozone gas, but what happens with this miracle is when you dissolve ozone gas into water, so it's a lot less reactive. You're not breathing it and it's in the water. So it's like a disinfectant. Like if you drank bleach, you die, but bleach is used as a disinfectant. But one molecule of bleach, its powerful sanitizing effect can be compared to up to 10,000 molecules of ozone. And ozone is just like so much more powerful. It's the other way, one molecule of ozone to 10,000 molecules of bleach. So it is so much more effective. So people go, how can I safely drink ozonated water? I would die if I had that much bleach. And the reason being is the way that ozone behaves, healthy cells that aren't infected with the virus, a bacteria, a fungus, or, some kind of parasite, or a cell that doesn't lack oxygen or isn't gone into a cancerous state, will have a protective enzyme coating around it. So ozonated water is selective because it won't oxidize the cells that have that protective enzyme coating around it. And, we're indoors all the time, so we're breathing lower levels of oxygen. There's a lot of people that are sedentary. They don't exercise regularly, so their body oxygen levels are lower. And when that happens, your body loses enzyme coating around cells. And that's how they become prone to having a virus attached to them, a bacteria, infections. And so we really want to have enough oxygen in our body, and to maintain those protective enzyme coatings, it just really boosts our immune system. And so what I teach people to do that's very simple at raising body oxygen levels is to make a glass of ozonated water. And I have a patented invention that I got the utility patent for, because, you can run an ozonated water to diffuse the gas into water, but you got to open a window, turn on an exhaust fan, leave, and that's not always convenient. So I came up with the cap for a glass jar that diffuses the ozone gas into the water 10 times as fast, so it extends the life of your ozone generator. And it degasses 100% of the ozone that doesn't dissolve in the water. So then you can drink it on an empty stomach. Think of it this way: when there's contaminated groundwater, the EP actually drills wells and have giant ozonators, and they inject ozonated water in the groundwater to clean up chemicals and toxins and heavy metals. So we're mostly water, right? So just a wonderful thing to do is to drink ozonated water on an empty stomach. And everybody goes, oh, well, then I'll just take it with my vitamins. No, because you're going to break down the nutrient content of your vitamins. Or, oh, I'll combine my ozonated water with my coffee enema solution. No, because you're going to get rid of the palmitic acid and the, caffeine and all the goodness in the coffee for the enema. And then you're going to consume the oxidizing power of the ozone. So you're going to make 2 therapies less effective. So, you think about ozonated water, of just doing it by itself, either 20 minutes before you do, drink anything, eat anything, consume anything, or 2 hours afterwards, and not at night, because the one thing about your body, when you get all this oxygen release, you're going to feel like you drank coffee, but without the bad stimulatory effect or without the, crashing. But you don't want to drink ozonated water before bed because you're just all energized. You're like, whoa, And so that is just a super simple, thing to do, because like I said, we live in a toxic world, and if our body isn't running like it should, we're going to even have auto intoxication things going on inside of our body that could be cleaned up. And so, yeah, I've got an ozone generator. It's a corona discharge. So like you probably had insufflation with an oxygen fed tank for ozone therapy, like when you go to the doctor's office and things like that. And there's a place for that. It's pretty radical. And certain conditions, you're going to want to do that. You're going to want to get heavy and intense. But as a daily practice, you can use corona discharge to clean water. I mean, actually, the city of Los Angeles ozonates their sewage water into clean water. Oh, wow. It's just a period of time. Everything has a time, duration, and concentration. The little machine that I have will make, 1.5 parts per million. But to keep it in perspective, like, for food poisoning, we have Listeria, E. coli, Salmonella, we have parasites, and it takes 0.1 part per million at 15 seconds exposure to kill E. coli.
Oh, wow.
So here's a machine that you can make in 5 minutes about 1.5 part per million, in cold water. So it's like liquid sanitizer. Corona can't live. Nothing will mutate against it. So it's not like using antibacterial soap where we're creating super bugs.
Oh, yeah.
So you can use it
to
clean counters and everything else. And how it benefits plants, because a lot of plants have like powdery mildew, on the outside, they've got larvae, and with spraying ozonated water on your plants early, they did a study on cucumbers and onions where they used ozonated water, and it pretty much eradicated the powdery mildew. And as a side effect, the plants grew 40% larger. So for the same land, they were able to harvest more produce. And when you spray early and often, the insect eggs, ozonated water is not going to kill a bug that's hatched. And, if you don't start early in spraying, you're going to have eggs that it can't kill. But, if you just start misting and everything else, it's like a Fowler feed of oxygen to help these plants grow. And so a lot of people, I've got a machine that you just screw a hose onto and you screw a hose out of, and they'll like fill a bucket. And then you use these airless paint sprayers and they just clean all their plants. I do it on my garden. I've got like a patio garden and everything. And it just really helps the plants. And even for cleaning dog kennels and washing dogs. And it's just amazing when you have ozonated water, because everything's like clean and yeah.
Yeah, no, I think it's really exciting stuff to learn more about. Like I said, I've done a little bit, but haven't, drank a little bit and done some different things with ozone. I think it's really fascinating. I know there's some really incredible research out there. I know it's not super easy to access. I was going to ask you that, because I know when I've looked into ozone, it's typically like a couple $1,000s, isn't it, to get your oxygen and everything you've got to do to set up the whole system. Is that correct? Or do you have something that is less expensive?
I have corona discharge, so it's not meant for insufflation.
Okay.
So it's for the people who aren't that far down the rabbit hole. Maybe they don't have cancer, maybe they don't have these chronic diseases. So if they just start drinking ozonated water as part of their daily routine and cleaning all their vegetables, because everything's grown in dirt. Yeah. So it's going to have microscopic insect larvae, parasite larvae, all this kind of stuff that we're going to be ingesting. It's like a straw on the camel's back. So if you can have clean food, I mean, I would not be afraid at all if somebody ate a bowl of strawberries or half the bowl of strawberries and got E. coli and died. I would clean the rest of them with ozonated water and I would eat them and I would not get sick because of the sanitizing effect of it. So you can pretty much eliminate, foodborne illness. And the aspect when you clean your food, vegetables, meats, everything in ozonated water, then it's going to last longer. It's like a lot of people used to use a little bit of bleach and water and soak their vegetables so it will last a long time. Well, doing the ozonated water, you're not going to have the toxic byproducts that you do with chlorine bleach. And
who uses bleach to clean their vegetables? I've never heard that. You should use white vinegar, if nothing.
Well, yeah, there's people that'll put like a quarter cup or an eighth of a cup in a gallon of water and they'll throw their vegetables in there and it will cause them to last twice as long because it kills the mold and all the stuff on the outside of them. But yeah, so.
Oh, I wouldn't dare touch bleach. Oh my gosh, I can't even stand the smell of it, let alone thinking about putting it on my food. Oh my gosh.
I know.
Okay, so I have a question with this because this is exciting stuff. But so my question is, I feel like, okay, maybe there's a time and a place, right? Or, can we do too much, right? Because we know like, getting exposure to germs and having, we talk about like kids nowadays, right? They're not out playing in the dirt, right? Building that microbiome. So I know there's got to be this balance here. And I get like, so for example, when I was going through mold, I'm like, all I cared about was getting that crap out of my body, but I couldn't sustain the detoxification and all that, like you said, because it strips away a lot of other things. So is there like something we like, I don't know what the right word is, not a concern, but just awareness of like, okay, I can understand cleaning, vegetables, especially store-bought ones, things like that might have like things like E. coli and stuff like that on them. But is there a point at which we can actually sanitize too much?
Well, I'm a proponent of getting outside, grounding, getting your hands in the dirt, doing something because that builds the microbiome and builds immunity. So as far as you don't want to be sterilizing everything for all your kids and that kind of thing, but now we've got the whole Corona deal so that kids just need to be outside more and exposed and be going barefoot. But then with ozonated water, because, there's no benefit to having parasites in your body. So you're going to have, if you grow your own, you're going to have parasite library on them. You need to clean them well. So if you're going to clean them anyway, instead of using like a Lugal's iodine wash, you can just make your ozonated water and clean them. And it's, more effective. And, once you have the generator, you're just making it and using it because it only lasts 20 to 30 minutes. So I always use ozonated water on everything in the food prep area. And I don't think you can do that too much. Washing your hands in ozonated water, I don't think you can do that too much.
Okay.
But what we need to do is we need to make sure that we're having the right kind of fiber. We know now, even if you go get your stool sample done, the the bacteria that lives in that is really depending on what you're eating. And so, just taking a bunch of good probiotics, in some people, it's like throwing expensive grass seed on ground that's been sterilized with a chemical and expecting a harvest, so we've got to start eating more vegetables with the soluble and insoluble fiber to be able to feed, the good bacteria. And, after we've been eating certain things for a while, then our microbiome, comes back. But yeah, for the children right now, the best thing parents can do is get them outside and let them play in the dirt.
Oh, I wholeheartedly agree with that.
I mean,
that's so important. So I have a question in regards to, do you do any skincare products with ozone? Do you add, because I've used some products with ozone in them. So I'm curious, like from it, like if you, I don't know, like just do you do anything like that? Just to share more about that.
I don't make them because to make the ozonated olive oil and stuff like that, it takes over like a week. And it's, you have to have special machines and to degas and all that kind of stuff. And, I don't use that. There's actually a microbiome on your skin too. And
Oh,
so,
right. Yeah, for
for
sure.
infections and injuries, that's amazing. But to use it on your skin all the time is going to deplete the good guys that you want to have on your skin. So we have a whole skincare line, and it's based on ancestral type skincare off of rendered cow kidney fat. A cow will have like 300 pounds of fat, and most tallow products that you buy in the market, you smell like a hamburger running around. It's not very good. So we have a special way that we very low temperature render the fat, and we get it from a group of farmers that we know. So the animals have never had any antibiotics or hormones or shots. Some of them are organic. I just can't get enough, because out of that 300 pounds, there's only about 10 to 15 pounds of fat on a cow. And then when you render that down, you only get a third of it. So it's a very expensive proposition to have it rendered properly and filtered. But we've got balms, lotions, and deodorants. And if you look at our reviews, they're all 5-star.
So
It's like
yeah,
tremendous.
So Eileen, is it because of like the enzymes and things that are in the fats, or what is it about? Because I've actually never heard of this, and I'm very intrigued. I always love learning new things. So
Well,
what is it about it that's so good?
There's fat soluble vitamins. And like, even if you accidentally got butter on your skin, do you see how quickly it absorbs in there?
Yeah.
So the animal fat actually really, really absorbs into deeper layers of your skin, but it's super nourishing with the fat soluble vitamins. And there's natural antibacterial properties to it, along with anti-aging properties. And I mean, I've even had vegans who've had like medications, prescription ointments would not solve their problem. You can read the product review on there, how it cleared up their skin and healed them, because it's going deep and penetrating. And most of all the oils and essential oils in it are organic. There's only a few that aren't. And it's just a really clean product that works. We started out with deodorant, actually, because, you can go buy all these natural deodorants, but you're like stinking all the time, or maybe some of them work, but none of them work for my daughter.
Yeah, it's hard. It took me a long time to find a good natural one.
And so we worked and we worked and we worked. And I've actually had women that were on prescription antiperspirants that nothing would work, even the prescription strength. And it just solved the problem.
So in yours, it's all from the base, like the base ingredient is the fats.
Yeah. And olive oil and, then these other, ingredients. And,
yeah.
It just works. There's just so many reviews. People could just, go to the website and read all the views for the skincare. You'd think with when you read the label of ingredients, like on our anti-aging lotion, you'd think it would just be greasy, but it's like got this nice whipped texture and it just goes in and it's not greasy. But I've had, like, when I was on television and they do your makeup before, they're like going, "What's on your skin? What's on your skin?" And I'm going, "Well, that's my tallow lotion." You're going, "Oh my gosh, we spend 90% of our time just trying to moisturize the skin before we put the makeup on." So I've got television makeup artists using our tallow products because it works better than anything they can buy. And it's just like, and then we went into the body toners with the Dead Sea minerals and the different things that you can put on for transdermal underneath the lotions. And it's just like, if you look at videos and pictures of me from like over the last 10 years and you look at me now, it's like, oh my gosh.
Yeah, your skin looks beautiful.
I'm really so much younger. Of course, I use all the products that I sell, and it's, a way of life. And I tell people, they're going like, "Oh my gosh, how do you make time for all that?" And I go, "Well, when you feel like Superwoman, it's encouraging to continue."
Just keep going. Yes.
And so I tell people start with one thing. And then if it does what I say it does, maybe you'll be enthused to try something else. It's because it's like they sell themselves, you know?
Yeah, that's the best. That's great. So, Eileen, I want to ask you a little bit about coffee enemas. I have my
Okay.
thoughts on them, but I'd love to hear you talk about them, right? Because detoxification and all of that. So, can you explain? I feel like people probably heard about them, but I think a lot of people are like shied away from doing them because they're like, "What? Really? Coffee?
Yeah.
Coffee enema? Really?"
Well, they've been around for thousands of years. My most favorite story is when Hitler's army got cut off from supplies. And the doctor would always order a plain water enema. And the nurses started thinking, well, if the coffee's keeping the doctor going 24/7, they started pouring coffee in the enema buckets, and an amazing thing happened. The soldiers' pain, here they are operating on them without pain pills. And their soldiers' pain reduced so dramatically that it actually became famous in universities. 3 universities over Europe, one in Vienna, Austria, and other places, started putting coffee water up rats to find out what's going on. And what happened within 12 minutes, all the palmitic acid and caffeine, so yes, you have to use caffeinated coffee, vanished from the rectum. And the body had amazing results because that goes up the portal vein. It's like your intestinal tract has, like if you pull up a tomato plant, all these little roots. That's like a portal vein that hooks all along that intestinal tract to grab nutrients and poisons, whatever, to go to the liver to filter it. So what happens is it would go up to the liver and dilate the bile ducts. So it would cause a large increase in bile production, which, by the way, changes the pH of the intestinal tract and makes it more conducive to our biome to grow and thrive. But it increased natural production of glutathione 600%. So how many people spend money on glutathione supplements?
It's expensive too.
Do a coffee enema and probably produce more bioavailable glutathione that you can consume on your own. And now, especially with the vaccine graphene nanoparticles that there, and I just read a study where if your body has enough glutathione in it, it won't cause that dangerous shift of inflammation and everything else. So, but it does more than that. It actually turns on enzyme systems. It fills your bloodstream with free radical scavengers. It's literally so wonderful that if somebody asked me, Eileen, I'm only going to do one thing, that's it. What do you recommend? I'd say do a daily coffee enema. And I was in a car wreck and had knee surgery. And, of course, anesthesia, pain pills, all that. And they got this S3 machine like they had on Dr. Oz that shows circulating antioxidant levels. And doctors get it to use to sell people antioxidants. Because, if we have enough antioxidants in our body, cancer doesn't have a chance, you're not aging as fast and all this stuff. So I thought, man, after all this, it's going to be really bad. Dr. Oz was 75,000. They say 60,000 and above is just like you're in the safe zone. Most of his audience, he had him in color-coded shirts based on their antioxidant levels. And it's like most of them, it was just really bad, And so I put my hand on that thing and it was 80,000 units higher than Dr. Oz. And the rep was going, well, what antioxidants do you take? I'm going, well, I don't. I do a daily near-infrared sauna, which also fills my bloodstream with antioxidants, daily coffee enema, and I do my hair analysis supplements, which do not include, it's mainly minerals, maybe a few glandulars, but it doesn't include any antioxidants. And so, a lot of people will say, oh, doing a daily coffee enema, you're going to wash out your minerals and all this. Well, at the same time, I got all the blood work for life insurance. And my agent's going, so for the blood work for my surgery, blood work for the life insurance. I mean, I was just like perfection right down the middle, just absolutely perfect. And the guy's going, oh my gosh, what are you doing? Daily coffee enemas, near-infrared saunas, blah, blah, blah. And I got the healthiest class of life insurance you can qualify for. And he said in the history of their office, nobody's done that.
Okay, so I have a question. So I've not done coffee enemas, in part because I'm always wondering, in the sense, like, I know there's a spot in the colon, right? They say that's like the trigger spot to increase the bile, right? But I don't know. I haven't fully been sold on them. And my other question is, well, if, so many people are constipated and not excreting, so what if you then release a bunch of bile and we're releasing a bunch of toxins and we're not actually getting rid of them? I don't know. I just have some questions, just because I'm like,
Sure,
I'm
sure.
not an expert on this, but I've been well aware of them. They're highly recommended in my FDN practitioner community. And so, yeah, I don't know. I'm just always kind of intrigued and curious to learn
Right.
more.
Well, I
Yeah.
always give people the 2-week coffee enema challenge.
Okay.
And then I tell them I'll never ask them to do them again. Bottom line, because they sell themselves.
Yeah.
I
Once you
mean,
do them.
I had a husband and wife come in, cut their hair for hair analysis, and he was on allergy medicines, antidepressants, had like a laundry list of couldn't sleep, anxiety attack, all this kind of stuff on his sheet. So he says, I'll do the coffee enemas. I'll try it. And so they come back a month later, and I'm telling them about the hair analysis supplements. You cannot take very many of them at all because we're going to ease into this. And 80% of that guy's symptoms were gone, vanished from doing the coffee enema.
Doing the coffee enema
alone before starting anything else. And he says, no problem. I'll just do 2 coffee enemas instead of 1. He was so confident in how well it would make him feel. But they've been scientifically tested so much as far as the benefits. And the reason why people are constipated is because they have underactive adrenal and thyroid glands, because your body converts electrolyte sodium levels into hydrochloric acid. So constipated people have either, inadequate digestive juices to really digest their foods. And usually somebody who's a slow oxidizer has toxic levels of copper and a bad zinc copper ratio, so that you're going to have an overgrowth of candida, which further, with the biofilm is going to cause constipation. So then they don't have the right gut flora and everything like that. And so a lot of people fighting constipation, and because my zinc copper ratio when I started was a 38. This was in 2011. Ideal's 8. I've only seen one person with a higher zinc copper ratio than I had. So I had just prone to allergies, constipation, candida. So over the years, as my ratio would begin to improve, my digestion would begin to improve. But what you don't want to do is having your waste stick around in your intestinal tract, because that's a membrane.
Absolutely not, right? We got to excrete that stuff out for sure.
So that membrane will reabsorb. That's that auto intoxication that I was talking about, will go in there and put extra poisons. And candida is an organism, so it excretes stuff that is like acetaldehyde. That's what you get from a hangover. So why do people that are constipated that have candida feel so bad? Is because they're like, they got this brew going on here, and they're like living with the effects of a constant hangover. And so when you can get that out, and it doesn't make you, so some people, till they get their endocrine system squared away, till your body's producing the hormones and you're rebuilding all that, maybe they might, when they do a double back-to-back coffee enema, they might not eliminate at another time of the day, but that's okay, because you're not auto-intoxifying your body and all these kinds of things. You're changing the pH, you're doing all this good things in your body so that you can heal, by changing your diet, getting the right soluble and insoluble fiber to get the good guys living. So it's a process. But a lot of people, to lay down, some people with their backs, they can't lay down. Some people with their knees, they can't get up. And when you do, you know, you don't have bowel control to hold that. You're going to fill up and you're not going to be able to hold it 12 minutes.
Yeah.
You know, so I would teach people, you know, expect to leak out all over, be a mess, get a catch bucket, you know, and I mean, by the time 2 weeks rolls around, you'll be a pro, you'll have bowel control, you'll be feeling good, you'll be able to hold it longer. So then I came up with an invention.
Yeah, I want to hear about this because you're like doing it with less mess. I think that's part of where I'm like, I can't, I do a lot of things. And Eileen, I do a lot of crazy things, but haven't been sold on the whole coffee enema, dealing with all of it, making sure. I'm just like, oh, it sounds like a lot.
Now I have a glass jar with the handle, with an adapter, with a pump. So you fill it up with your solution and then you prime out the air. Then you can stand up in the shower. So it's a stand up, no mess. You fill in however much, you can rub your stomach and all that. There's no laying down on the side. You can lay down if you want, but most people aren't going to want to. They're going to like enjoy a nice shower. And then when you're ready to eliminate, you hop out and jump on the toilet. Then you get back in the shower and it's super simple. Now, no one has an excuse because I took all the mess out of it. It's easy, you know. So I give the 2-week coffee enema challenge. Okay, well, and they sell themselves. Well, they Eileen, do.
I will have to say, okay, one of these days I will give it a try because that sounds more appealing than the whole bucket, laying down, dealing with the whole thing. I mean, yeah.
And we have instructions on, of course, how to assemble it, but we have instructions on the different ways to make coffee and the types of coffee.
Yeah, because that's important, and you want to make sure your water is clean, and like it's like there's really important details that you need to be aware of, and make sure it's not hot, and like all that.
Yeah, well, I use room temperature spring water.
Okay.
I fill that up, and then I drink 1 cup of coffee a day, and I like percolated coffee, and I use organic, fresh roasted, because everybody now with coffee, who doesn't have a fresh coffee bean roaster in their town? You know, you can literally go and order green coffee beans to be roasted and pick them up the next day.
Yeah, I know.
Instead of buying something on the shelf that's been there for who knows how long, collecting mold or anything like that. And
okay, so Eileen, I have a question because I don't know of a local coffee place around here. Everybody sells. I don't know where they get it. I live in Iowa. We don't have, it's not as big of a deal. Like when I was in Orange County, oh yeah, every corner, right? So do you order from a place, you know, that you can get a fresh,
you can,
you know, and start getting that kind of coffee, or what do you recommend?
There used to be, there's another brand. I have somebody who said there's another brand of coffee that they recommended to me. I have not tried it.
It's one, I think it's called like Purity or something like that. That is
actually,
like
that is the
brand
that I was last recommended because of all the testing that's done on it. So you don't have any of the, you know, toxins or anything like that. And yeah, that was Purity. That was the brand that they recommended.
Yeah. Okay. Good to know. So Eileen, this is amazing. I love having these fun outside the box conversations where we all learn more good stuff and add tools to our toolbox. And so hopefully everyone listening maybe is a little intrigued to, you know, just learn a little bit more, maybe try something. And well, Eileen, thank you so much. This has been very educational and eye-opening. And yeah, I'm really excited for everyone to listen. So thank you.
Well, thank you for having me.